Did you know the first automobile ever built could only reach about 16 kilometers per hour? The vehicle was the Benz patent motor wagon, created by the German engineer Carl Benz, who is widely considered the inventor of the modern car. Even though it looked more like a motorized tricycle than a modern car, it marked the beginning of the automotive era. During its early journeys on normal roads, reports suggest the vehicle may have reached this top speed of 16 kilometers per hour. A contemporary newspaper, Neue Badische Landeszeitung, reported that the machine produced almost 1 horsepower at around 300 revolutions per minute, which allowed it to reach a speed comparable to a typical passenger train of that time. Did you know electric cars are actually older than gasoline cars? The first electric vehicle was invented around 1834, nearly 60 years before gasoline-powered cars, which began appearing around the 1890s. By 1900, electric vehicles were already quite popular. Out of about 4,200 cars sold in the United States, roughly 40% were electric, showing that early drivers were already embracing battery-powered transportation. Early innovators even experimented with hybrid technology. In 1898, Ferdinand Porsche built one of the first hybrid vehicles, combining an internal combustion engine with electric motors in the wheel hubs. Other inventors soon followed with similar designs that used gasoline engines to assist electric motors. Despite their early success, electric cars eventually faded by the 1930s due to expensive batteries, limited driving range, long charging times, and the rapid rise of mass-produced gasoline vehicles like the Ford Model T. Did you know the first accident involving a gasoline-powered car happened in 1891? It took place in Ohio City in the United States, when an early automobile driven by James William Lambert lost control. The vehicle struck the root of a tree, causing the car to overturn. Although the automobile was badly damaged, the driver and his passenger were fortunate enough to suffer only minor injuries. This incident is considered the first recorded crash involving a car with an internal combustion engine. At the time, automobiles were still experimental, and roads were not designed for them. As more vehicles began appearing on the streets, accidents slowly became more common. Just a few years later, in 1896, the first fatal accident involving a gasoline-powered car would occur. Did you know modern cars can contain more lines of code than airplanes, fighter jets, and even some operating systems? Today's vehicles run on roughly 100 million lines of software code, which is far more than the software used in many other complex machines. This huge amount of code controls everything in the car, from the engine and braking systems to navigation, sensors, and entertainment features. To put that into perspective, a passenger aircraft typically has about 15 million lines of code, while a modern fighter jet has around 25 million. Even a mass-market PC operating system has roughly 40 million lines of code, and the complexity is still growing. Experts estimate that by 2030, vehicles could reach around 300 million lines of code, largely due to connected systems and autonomous driving technology. Did you know the Toyota Corolla is the best-selling car model in history, and it's still being sold today? First introduced in 1966 by Toyota, the Corolla quickly became popular for being affordable, reliable, and fuel-efficient. Over the decades, it evolved through many redesigns, but it kept the same mission, providing a dependable car for everyday drivers. The Corolla's success is massive. By 2021, Toyota had sold over 50 million units worldwide, making it the most sold car model ever. Even after more than 55 years of production, and now in its 12th generation, the Corolla continues to be one of the top-selling vehicles globally. With modern versions including sedans, hatchbacks, hybrids, and crossovers, this iconic car is still adding millions more sales today. Did you know the windshield wiper was invented by a woman? The invention came from Mary Anderson after she noticed a streetcar driver struggling to clear snow from the windshield during a trip to New York in 1902. Drivers at the time often had to stop the vehicle or stick their heads out of the window just to see the road. Inspired by this problem, Anderson designed a device with a rubber blade that could be moved across the windshield using a lever from inside the vehicle, and she received a patent for it in 1903. Ironically, many companies rejected the invention because cars were still rare, and they believed it had little commercial value. Years later, however, windshield wipers became standard in cars. Starting with the Cadillac automobiles in 1922, proving how ahead of her time Anderson really was. Did you know the longest car in the world is actually longer than many swimming pools? The vehicle is a limousine called the American Dream, originally built in 1986 by car customizer J. Orberg. After being extended, the massive limo reached an incredible length of 30.54 meters, about 100 feet, far longer than a typical car, which usually measures only around 4 meters. To put that into perspective, many home swimming pools are about 25 meters long, meaning this limousine is even longer than that. The gigantic vehicle rides on 26 wheels, can be driven from both ends, and is packed with wild features including a swimming pool, jacuzzi, mini-golf area, and even a helipad. Today, this record-breaking car is displayed as a museum attraction because it's simply too long to drive on normal roads. Did you know modern cars can actually talk to each other? This happens thanks to V2V, vehicle-to-vehicle communication technology, which lets cars exchange information like speed, direction, and braking status. By sharing these signals, cars can warn each other and drivers about potential dangers such as a sudden stop ahead or a vehicle approaching a blind corner. V2V works using dedicated short-range radio, DSRC, with a range of about 300 meters, allowing vehicles to see threats beyond the driver's line of sight. Experts estimate that if all vehicles were equipped with V2V, some safety features alone could prevent 400,000 to 600,000 crashes and save up to 1,080 lives each year. It's like giving every car a superpower to communicate and keep everyone safer on the road. Did you know that in the very first cars, the steering wheel wasn't on the left or the right? Automobile. When Carl Benz patented the first car in 1886, drivers still used a tiller, like the reins of a horse carriage, to steer. It wasn't until 1894 that Alfred Vacheron replaced the tiller with a steering wheel on his racing car to improve control and speed. Early steering wheels were vertical or angled, and some even had levers to control engine functions. Over the decades, the steering wheel evolved into the central control hub we know today, adding horns, indicators, airbags, gear shift, and even touch-sensitive controls. Modern innovations like capacitive touch buttons and digital interfaces allow drivers to control navigation, music, and car settings without taking their hands off the wheel. So the next time you grip a steering wheel, remember, it started out floating in the middle, with no left or right side at all. Did you know that cars spend 95% of their time parked? On average, a typical car is only driven 5% of the time, meaning most of the day it just sits on the street, in a driveway, or in a parking garage. In places like LA County, the land used for parking these idle vehicles is massive, covering at least 200 square miles, which is 14% of the county's land. Providing all those parking spaces isn't cheap either. Building a single parking spot can cost more than the net worth of many households, which is why cities are rethinking how much parking they actually need. So the next time you leave your car sitting in a lot, remember, it's part of a huge, expensive puzzle that takes up a surprising amount of space.